Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending and participating in Tarion's 2024 annual public meeting. My name is Jennifer Spear, and I'll be your moderator. I'll begin with the meeting with a land acknowledgement on behalf of Tarion. We want to acknowledge the Indigenous and ancestral lands in which all of the new homes in Ontario are built. Tarion's corporate office and this venue are located on the ancestral lands shared by the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Each year, Tarion holds an annual public meeting to provide highlights from the past year. And this is one of the many channels with which the stakeholders can ask questions. Tonight's meeting is a hybrid format involving both participants in the room and those joining us online as part of our live stream. This meeting is also being recorded and will be available on Tarion's website at a later date. To begin, I'll introduce the members of Tarion's senior leadership team who will be part of our panel this evening. On my immediate left is the chair of Tarion's board of directors, Andy Kennins, Tarion President and CEO, Peter Balasubramaniam, Chief Risk Officer, Edmund Lee, Vice President of Warranty Service, Sophie Valhoskis, and Vice President of Underwriting, Kevin Brody. For tonight's agenda, we'll hear remarks from the board chair, Andy Kennins, followed by a presentation by Edmund Lee, and then remarks from the CEO. We'll also have a question and answer period. This year, our Q&A period will be divided into two parts to accommodate the mix of questions that we typically get raised. The first part of the Q&A will run until 6 p.m. and will be open for general questions from both the audience here in the room and those joining us online. And because the first part of the Q&A is being live streamed and recorded, some people may not feel comfortable asking specific file questions. So to provide greater opportunity to address specific questions, the second part of the Q&A will run from 6 to 6:30. And in the second half, Tarion warranty and underwriting staff will be available at the back of the room to address specific questions. In addition, for those of you online, we'll be able to accept online questions that you can send in via email. In addition, Tom Barber, the Tarion ombudsperson, will be available on site to answer questions that people may want to direct to his office. And for those of you online, if you wish to connect with him, you can send an email and his office will follow up to make arrangements for you. And finally, the executive team and the board chair will remain afterwards to address individual questions during that time, and the meeting will wrap up then at 6:30. Before we move on to the presentations, just a note for those of you online, if you have questions that you want to submit during the Q&A, you can do so by emailing them to events@tarion.com. If you prefer that your question be addressed directly with you and not read out publicly, you can just indicate that in the email and we'll reach out to you during that second half of the Q&A portion. I'll now start things off by introducing Tarion's board chair, Andy Kennins.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'll provide a brief overview of Tarion, the composition of the board and the Ombudsperson office, and then provide a few high-level observations about the overall operating environment we experienced in 2023. Tarion is an administrative authority administering the Ontario New Home Warranties Plan Act and reporting to the Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery for the province of Ontario. We're a non-profit organization, and our purpose is set out in the governing statute, which is consumer protection legislation. We operate independent of industry, and our role is to help homeowners and builders come to a resolution when there are disputes about the builder's warranty on a new home. When builders are unable or unwilling to resolve a warranted defect, we can help provide financial compensation to the homeowner and then hold the builder accountable under the warranty program rules. Tarion's board of directors is responsible for the general oversight of the organization, including promoting sound governance practices and setting the long-term strategy to make sure we remain consistent with our public purpose mandate. The board is not involved in day-to-day operations of the company, which is the role of management. Tarion's board is made up of 12 members drawn from a diverse range of backgrounds. We are all homeowners ourselves, and we understand the importance of a new home purchase. The experience on our board includes recent experience in insurance matters, financial expertise, regulatory, communications, social programs, and dispute resolution, among other things. Our board also includes members with experience in the new home building industry. However, the number of members with recent experience in new home building and selling is limited to a maximum of 4 out of the 12 total board members, which ensures that non-builders always make up a majority of the board. On screen, you'll see a slide identifying all of our current board members. A number of them are here in attendance. Others are following this presentation virtually. Since our last annual public meeting, we had one new member join the board, Jason Audi. More information about our board composition, including member bios, can be found on our website. One of the resources available to homeowners is our new Home Ombuds Office. This is an independent and confidential service that reports directly to the board of directors and provides recommendations regarding any case-specific or systemic issues that they identify and monitors implementation of those recommendations. Each year, the new Home Ombuds publishes their annual report that details their findings and recommendations. Last year at this time, I noted that our current new Home Ombuds was retiring, and I'm pleased to say that we were able to fill the role without any gap in service. Tom Barber is the new leader of the new Home Ombuds Office and has years of experience investigating and resolving complaints, most recently leading the Ombuds role at Workplace Safety and Insurance Board. Our board is confident he is a valuable resource for home buyers to address questions or concerns. As you heard earlier, Tom is here with us and will be available for questions after the meeting. 2 other committees which report to the board are worth noting. Tarion has a Consumer Advisory Council made up of recent new home buyers, home inspectors, lawyers who work for new home buyers, and others who have a background that puts them in a position to advise on issues from a new home buyer's perspective. The council reports to the board and serves to provide consumer perspectives on policy and business development. Similarly, Tarion has an Industry Advisory Council which serves the same function on behalf of the new home building industry. More information relating to these councils can also be found on our website. I'll close my remarks with some observations about the economic environment in 2023 and some of our policy level accomplishments in the past year. It's fair to say that 2023 was a challenging year filled with uncertainty and upheaval in the Ontario housing market. Interest rate increases kept many potential home buyers on the sidelines and increased borrowing costs for builders, making it more difficult for them to complete homes. The end result was that there were fewer housing starts and fewer new home purchases, all of which contributed to a challenging housing situation for consumers to navigate. Market conditions and other factors led to a number of receiverships which impacted many buyers who had put down deposits on pre-construction homes. This included the Stateview receivership, which was the largest freehold home builder receivership in the past 20 years. You may not know that the Ontario Warranty Program offers the highest level of deposit protection to home buyers compared to any other province in Canada, and as a result, Tarion was able to help many home buyers mitigate their losses. In 2023, Tarion also continued improving both warranty coverage and the claims process to help consumers. These improvements included increasing the warranty compensation limit from $300,000 to $400,000 for freehold homes, making this coverage the highest available in Canada. We also implemented changes to our warranty process that took effect at the beginning of May this year, making our processes easier to navigate and providing more opportunities for homeowners to get help from Tarion when they need it. While this annual meeting is primarily a reflection on the market in 2023, it's clear that it continues to be a challenging time for the housing market in 2024, and consumer protection has never been so important. Our board of directors are committed to working together with management to continue to evolve the new home warranty program to meet these challenges and help homeowners navigate the warranty process when needed. Thank you again for taking time to join us this evening. I'll now pass this over to Edmund Lee, Tarion's Vice President and Chief Risk Officer, for an overview of financial matters. Edmund.
Thank you, Andy. Good evening, everyone. Now, 2023 proved to be a very challenging year like 2022, but for different reasons. I would like to highlight the key operating statement line items that are being reported now under the new IFRS standard, a global standard of accounting that is used by all major international insurance companies like Manulife, Intact. The first line item is the insurance revenue, which comprises the release of fulfillment cash flows for Tarion policies, plus contractual service margins that will offset insurance expenses. Now, the improvement you've noted in 2023 versus 22 reflects the maturity of 2020 to 2021 previous year cohorts, which had very strong volume of enrollments. Think of the insurance revenue line as the current year's recognition of the claims and expenses that was estimated in the future for the past and current enrollment years. Now, the biggest driver of the challenging 2023 results lies within the insurance service expense, with a large State View claim that has been in the news and is approximately $90 million embedded in the $175 million expense. It is quite unfortunate for many homeowners that rogue financial and reporting irregularities by this outlier builder, also inadvertently abetted by a failure of Schedule I bank check-kiting internal controls, has precipitated such a major loss. Now, a good news offset as a result of pre-planned financial mitigation risk management is the $29 million reinsurance recoverable that reflects claims incurred. Tarion has an excess loss reinsurance policy that will pay out $45 million in excess of a $75 million attachment point. As of December 2023, I would like to highlight a special IFRS 17 reporting feature. Tarion's investment and financial expense results are now segregated from the insurance service results. So another good news item is the great recovery of the guarantee fund. In 2023, we had a $54 million gain versus a $54 million loss last year. I will discuss this in more detail in the next slide. And another new IFRS 17 feature is the disclosure of interest rate risk within the insurance contracts portfolio. Now, when interest rates go up or down, there will be a gain or loss respectively that needs to be accounted for because the insurance contract liabilities need to reflect current interest rates. Also, because insurance contract accounting is based on present value, as time goes by, the liability value goes up and interest accretion expense needs to be recorded. The interest rate declines were a key driver of the insurance finance expense loss in 2023. So under the IFRS 17 reporting basis, Tarion's insurance service result was a $79 million loss, and the net insurance financial result was a positive $33 million, and they are disclosed separately going forward because of IFRS 17 standards. Going to the next slide. Benchmark returns. This slide highlights the capital market drivers of the guarantee fund. From the poor negative returns in 2022 for both world stock markets and the Canadian short-term bond index, 2023 experienced a 20% positive return in world stock markets and a 5% positive gain in short bonds. As world central banks prepared to move to easier monetary conditions, both asset classes benefited during the year as world economies exhibited a soft landing scenario. This slide shows that the guarantee fund is diversified and consists of high-quality investment-grade assets. Tarion Management and the board, with the assistance of a third-party investment advisor, oversee prominent investment managers that generally have tens of billions under management. Now, 55% of the guarantee fund is allocated to short-term investment-grade bonds, and this is supportive of mitigating that interest rate risk that's inherent in Tarion's insurance contracts. When interest rates fall like they did in 2023, the guarantee fund bonds gain, and this offsets the losses of the revaluation upwards of the insurance contract liabilities. This slide is a reminder of why the guarantee fund is a cornerstone of the warranty program. Right here in Canada, we have experienced two home warranty catastrophes. The BC leaky condo crisis of about $700 million and the Quebec concrete crisis at about $100 million and counting. A healthy guarantee fund is the key financial backstop to homeowner claims payments. While we are in this residential development recession, it is even more important to administer the fund prudently with a risk management lens. In this statement of cash flows here in this slide, the current recessionary impacts from the industry can be discerned. From 2023 to 2022, enrollments received fell by $21 million, or 24%, and claim payments to homeowners increased by $11 million, or 31%. From 2022 to 2023, claim payments total over $83 million. And for 2024 May year to date, we have already matched 2023 at $47.5 million, and we still have 7 months to go. So obviously, a healthy guarantee fund is essential to supporting these cash outflows. In this slide, you can see the evolution of the residential development industry's evolving recessionary impact on Tarion. Visually, there's a notable correlation to the increase in claims paid out, the columns, to the increase in the Bank of Canada interest rates, the blue line, since 2019. And this has been a key source of industry stress. The enrollments volumes, which are the yellow bubbles, have noticeably declined in trend in 2023, and we expect 2024 will exhibit a further decline. Economic theory suggests it will take another 12 months or so for the impact of the high interest rates to be fully felt, so we are not out of the woods yet. Going back to the financial statements, I would like to highlight that despite the lower enrollments and high claims paid out cash flows, the guaranteed fund managed to increase by $15.9 million because of the aforementioned strong investment returns. Now, a key asset I would want to take note of is a $36.6 million reinsurance recoverable that arises from that excess loss insurance contract that was triggered in 2023. The counterpart to this asset is an AM Best A++ rated insurer with more than 4 times the regulatory available capital of Tarion. Not only will this recoverable asset provide much needed liquidity during this recessionary time, but it is also a testament to the efficacy of Tarion's diversified risk management approach. While continuing to invest sizably in detective and preventative controls like inspections, new home project risk analysis, vendor builder reporting requirements, Tarion also structured excess loss reinsurance over the years for a challenging claims experience like we have in 2023. And even more important from a risk management perspective than the guarantee fund itself is the equity or net worth of Tarion. On this slide, there is $486 million of insurance contract liabilities to homeowners. And so the same amount of guarantee fund assets is essentially spoken for. Within this amount is $138 million of incurred claims, which includes monies set aside for State View home purchasers that Tarion will be supporting financially. Tarion's net worth for 2023 is $192 million, which is down by 25% or $65 million from 2022. Tarion voluntarily follows the Offices of Superintendent of Financial Institutions Risk and Capital Management prudent standards as best practice. And a key step in following all that is to stress test this $192 million equity against plausible loss scenarios. So an over and above reporting, auditing, inspection controls that are in place, OSFI requires a financial institution to be ready financially for a plausible loss and rebuild its capital over a reasonable time frame. For illustrative purposes, you can see that a 1 in 100-year event like a large insolvent builder would reduce Tarion's equity by over $160 million. Before reinsurance, a State View type loss comes in at second place severity with a probability of once every 75 years. We review these losses scenarios annually with our appointed actuary in preparation for our annual stress test. Now, the vast majority of builders would not drive these sizable losses, but risk management requires one to consider the outliers. After State View, Tarion needs to rebuild its capital to be ready to backstop homeowners because the industry is still in recessionary territory. As Tarion works to rebuild capital, whether by reinsurance, capital replenishment, and prudent investment income, we will always be cognizant of the balance required for our key stakeholders. after a catastrophic claim loss, Tarion wants to rebuild its capital on a timely basis to be effective for our government overseers and partners, while ensuring the cost of the industry is not an unreasonable headwind to home building efforts. And finally, Tarion regularly reviews the adequacy and relevancy of the protection available for the new home purchaser. That concludes my remarks on the financial performance in the organization for 2023. I now pass things over to our CEO, Peter Balasubramanian, for our final presentation.
Thank you, Edmund, and thank all of you for joining us today. In this presentation, I'm going to touch on a couple of topics. I'm going to talk about the results of our annual homeowner satisfaction surveys, our enrollment data, possession data, and claims data for 2023, recent increases in illegal deposit claims and receiverships, which you heard a little bit about just now from Edmund. And I'll conclude with some comments about our continued progress on the 2019 AG Blueprint and what we've been focusing on and what we will be focused on for the balance of 2024. Now, as an organization, we receive feedback from stakeholders in a variety of ways. This meeting is one of them. In 2023, we received almost 60,000 phone calls and 80,000 inbound emails to our customer service center. About 90% of those came from consumers. We also have several ways that we ask for direct feedback from consumers on our customer service, including our annual homeowner satisfaction survey, which is an independent survey done every year to track our overall service orientation metric. The service orientation score looks at what consumers say about Tarion across three major measures: the ease of doing business, access, and listening. We also solicit information about general homeowner sentiment, including with respect to their builders. In 2023, the service orientation score was 82%. That's in line with our three-year average over the past 3 years, but it is a drop from the 85% score we had in 2022. The 3% decline is something that we have to monitor and look at carefully. We need to determine if it's connected to broader challenges that are facing the building industry and the economy, or whether it relates to something more specific that we can work to address in our own processes, or a combination of both. Now, the dip in consumer sentiment is consistent with the overall challenges we saw with industry in 2023, as they've been facing the after effects of a COVID housing bump. Optimistic sales that were made during the unexpectedly hot market of 2021 and 2022 may have contributed to delayed closings, or perhaps rushed closings in 2023, that stressed after-sale service resources of a building industry that may have not fully rebounded from COVID supply chain issues, material and trade difficulties, and which had difficulty adjusting to pricing and interest rate volatility. Now, looking forward through to 2024 and onward, I think there is an opportunity for the provincial building industry to step up their home delivery and after-sales service. With pandemic issues largely behind us, with a slowdown in enrollments and housing starts potentially freeing up service resources, and maybe a more stable interest rate and pricing environment in the future, we think there's positive opportunities ahead. With respect to an enrollment slowdown, in 2023, there were about 54,000 enrollments registered with Tarion for new home units. That's a 30% drop from 2022. And as Edmund highlighted, we believe this trend will continue in 2024. We expect enrollment levels in 2024 to finish between 30,000 or 40,000 at this time. And that would be the lowest enrollment level for new home units in the province in the past decade, maybe more. Now, remember that enrollments occur after a sale, but prior to the completion of construction. So, in a sense, an enrollment is a leading indicator of possessions. Since enrollment levels were particularly high from 2020 to 2022, the possession story, meaning the number of homes occupied by consumers, in 2023, that story did not mirror the enrollment data. On the contrary, possessions of freehold homes and condo units in 2023 were 63,000. And that's the highest number of possessions in the province in a year, again, at least in the past 10 years. Since the majority of warranty-related work that we do typically follows after a homeowner takes possession, the volume of work that we managed in 2023 was particularly high. And as I noted earlier, it's possible that some of that high volume, combined with a drop in the overall level of after-sales service being provided by builders, may have impacted impressions of Tarion as reflected in the homeowner satisfaction survey score that I previously mentioned. Now, the large amount of possessions also contributed to high levels of claims payouts to consumers, and Edmund's taken you through some of that data. In 2023, we paid out claims to almost 1,500 households, with a total of $47.5 million in compensation being provided to new home buyers. Despite those claims trends, our dispute resolution data continues to tell a more positive story. In 2023, there are about 53,000 warranty lists provided by homeowners to their builders via the Tarion My Home portal. And 98% of those ended up being resolved without the homeowner having to escalate to schedule an inspection with Tarion. And of the approximately 6,500 inspections that were scheduled, we were able to work with the builder and the homeowner and get about 70% of those resolved without the inspection having to happen. Now, before I move on from the discussion of claims, I want to return to the specific increase that we are seeing in builder receiverships, as well as legal and illegal deposit claims we've been noting. The amount of deposit claims in particular stands out. To put it into historical perspective, the amount of deposit claims paid between 2005 and 2021 was $15 million. So that's about $1 million a year, under $1 million a year. And in 2023, deposit claims hit $10 million. That's 10 times the historical norm. And in 2024, we project that number to be closer to $70 million. Significantly, more than 80% of these deposit claims relate to illegal sales. What's an illegal sale? An illegal sale can occur when a licensed builder approaches Tarion for approval to sell a number of homes, but does not get that approval. So they shouldn't sell those homes. But they do anyway, and they sell homes to unsuspecting homeowners without approval. This is against the law and puts that builder's license in jeopardy. Historically, the risk of a license revocation was enough of a deterrent to keep builders from doing this. I think the claims data from the past 20 years bears this out. But it was not the case in 2023, as illustrated by the Stateview receivership that Edmund mentioned. That organization went into receivership amidst allegations of fraudulent check kiting along with illegal selling activity. And the amount of illegal deposit claims caused by Stateview alone is greater than the total amount of deposit claims Tarion has paid out in its entire history, with potentially 700 deposits being taken without the required approvals. The impact of the Stateview situation, the increase in receiverships, is something that we will be monitoring closely. We will be working with HCRA, the Home Construction Regulatory Authority, as well as the ministry, to develop ways to mitigate or eliminate illegal building and selling, and we will make that a priority over the next year. We will also be reviewing the deposit warranty itself and the capital position of the guarantee fund to ensure the program remains healthy in the long term and that we strike the appropriate balance between maintaining financial stability of the program and the level of consumer protection that we offer. Finally, let me turn to our progress on the Auditor General recommendations from 2019. In 2019, the Auditor General completed a year-long review of the organization and issued a blueprint for improvement, a blueprint on which we can improve the warranty protection program in the province. Now, several years later, we are close to meeting the vast majority of the objectives that were laid out in 2019. The Auditor General's review, supplementary in 2023, independently confirmed that we have met 95% of the recommendations that were aimed at Tarion. We've restructured our governance structure. We have improved the warranty program itself. We've increased and added coverages so that today the Ontario program offers the highest warranty cap for homes in the country, and offers protections like delayed closing, deposit protection, protection for radon and toxic mold that you won't find elsewhere. In 2023, we also completed a consultation and worked to allow us to launch improvements to the claims intake process, which was a key source of criticism and represented a major opportunity for improvement. In 2024, we launched the new process for homes that take possession after May, and it's less complicated, and it's made the system more easier for homeowners to access help when they need it. The new process includes that emergency problems can be raised at any time. If a homeowner has a health or safety issue, for example, or a serious water leak, they can get help right away. For non-emergency items, like cosmetic issues, the customer service timelines will still apply, but now the process has an initial submission opportunity that's 30% longer, followed by a mid-year submission opportunity, which is new, followed by a year-end submission, which has a grace period. The former 30-day window to request an inspection has been eliminated, making it easier for homeowners to ask for assistance. And most importantly, over 97% of homeowners use our My Home digital portal to file their warranty lists. And we've invested in that technology to make sure that the portal makes it easier for homeowners by making it easier for them to see what their timelines are, providing them with email reminders, and automatically submitting lists that they have entered on time for them. On the customer service side, we will continue to focus on improving our digital support for homeowners and builders, as well as monitor the impact that these new changes have on the claims process and what the overall experience of our stakeholder becomes. We will also be focusing in 2024 on more specific operational improvements to the consumer experience, drawing from the learnings that we have made and that have come out of the challenging files which occurred through the pandemic. We will be reducing the number of handoffs on consumer files and improving our communications with homeowners as we work on their file to better manage expectations. We'll also be reviewing our process to make sure that external consultants that we hire provide their reports on a timely basis, and if there are issues, to ensure that expectations with our consumer stakeholders are properly managed and that we properly communicate with them. We've already made improvements to a number of our dispute resolution offerings, including our mediation program, and we will continue to look for other ways to make the stakeholder experience better. In short, I believe that we have accomplished a lot over the past 4 years, and as an organization, I think that we are well positioned for the future. The past 4 years have been unprecedented in terms of the pressures, both on homeowners and builders, and we've learned from that experience, and we remain committed to continuous improvement. I believe we remain on a positive trajectory, but I recognize that we still have work to do. Part of that work involves listening to what our stakeholders have to say and remaining accountable for our consumer protection mandate. And on that note about listening, I'll conclude my remarks here so we can move to our question and answer period. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. All right, now as promised, we're going to move on to the first part of our question and answer period. And we have both people attending here in person as well as online, so we're going to take questions from the room and virtually as well. So for those of you who in the room who have questions, you can make your way over to the microphone here on your left. And this is where we're going to ask that you take your first question, is at this microphone. You're going to ask one when it's your turn. If you have a second question, I'm going to ask that you line up at the microphone on the other side of the room, on your right-hand side. And we've organized it this way just to make sure that as many people as possible will get a chance to ask a question before someone asks their second or any further questions. In terms of asking your question, in order for us to hear from as many people as possible, I'll ask that you make your question as concise and brief as you can. And if you're online, you can submit your questions to events@tarion.com. We'll close this portion of the Q&A at 6 p.m. when we move on to the second part of the Q&A where people can ask their more file-specific questions. All right, so let's begin. If you wouldn't mind stating your name and sharing your question briefly. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Barbara Captain. I have a question regarding the loss that you announced of $90 million. In your business plan this year, you said that that loss were claims related to deposit claims for agreement of purchase and sale entered into builders without complying with Tarion's warranty legislation. And I ask, why aren't you doing more to clamp down on builders who are not following the law? The reason for my question is that your guarantee fund is contributed to by all new home buyers, and it feels wrong that new home buyers, that our money is being used to basically bail out builders who don't follow the law. And so you have several risk management comments you made from the panel, but what are you doing to manage that risk going forward? It is not just market forces. It is that some builders are not enrolling homes with the warranty program, and they are not getting licensed. I don't hear a plan from your management team about how you're mitigating that risk going forward, because new home buyers do not expect that our money, which is to be used for fixing construction defects, would be used to bail out builders who are not following the law.
All right, thank you, Barbara.
It's worrying.
Peter?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I agree with the sentiment in the question. I agree with the passion with the question. I absolutely think that we need to do what we can to prevent builders from flouting the regulations and causing losses. I want to make a couple of comments about that. One thing I want to correct is the idea that in making the payments from the guarantee fund in the situation we're talking here about, the situation of a receivership of a builder that had entered into illegal sales, I just want to correct the impression which you have that making those payments is bailing out the builder. Making those payments is bailing out the homeowners. We're really helping the homeowners, protecting their deposits. Not one part of what we are paid out goes to the builder. It's there to help homeowners who've lost their deposit money. And I really think that's an important distinction, because I know when Edmund speaks and reviews the financial statements, obviously when you look at something like this massive claim payout, you describe it as a loss. And it is a loss. But it's also the greatest single expression of consumer protection in provincial history in the new home buying industry. The $60 million, the $47.5 million, potentially $90 million that we're talking about is the single greatest outflow from the Provincial Guarantee Fund to help homeowners that has ever happened. So yes, it's a loss. And yes, as CEO, I can tell you it keeps me up at night. It stresses me out. I'm absolutely laser focused on figuring out ways we can prevent it from happening again. But at the same time, it makes me feel very positive that the exact reason why this corporation, why this organization exists, was able to be demonstrated in the way we've handled this. So I could go on. I'm going to stop because I want to get more questions in, but if you have a second follow-up question on this, you can hopefully ask it later, Barbara. Thank you.
Peter, maybe I'd just add to that the benefit of paying these deposit claims to the purchasers of Ontario is something that's fairly unique to this province. And that's the case that Edmund mentioned it a little bit before, is that most other provinces in Canada actually do not provide deposit protection. So on top of the fact that it's a large amount, a number of these purchasers are actually able to get their deposits back, which they would not have been able to if they were in another province.
Great, thank you. We'll go to our second question.
Hi, my name is Gail Dudek, and my question is regarding the addendum that's attached to agreement and purchase and sale contracts. As I wrote to your board chair and members today regarding the mandatory Tarion-created addendum and purchase contracts, why hasn't the addendum not been revised since 2006? Many home buyers are being crushed by the loopholes in this addendum. When will you take action on this? Why did Superior Court Judge Justice Lowers say in 2020 the addendum is not consumer protective by any stretch? Even for judges and lawyers, this document is not consumer protective. Deposit protection and cancellations are part of the addendum you administer. Why haven't you done anything? I asked Wendy Moore, HCRA CEO last week the same question. She didn't have any constructive answers for me. Thank you.
Yeah, so for the folks in the audience that don't know what the addendum is, I'll just quickly describe it. There is a document that's been around for about 15 years, maybe a little more than that, that under the Ontario New Home Warranty Act legislation is required to be attached to every agreement of purchase and sale. And it contains in it a lot of information. It sets out the rules for the delayed closing, but it also provides, and I think this is kind of the core of where you're going, but correct me if I don't get it right. It also provides that if a builder is going to put a condition that needs to be met that would give them the right to cancel, they have to disclose it in the agreement. And that can work a hardship on a homeowner. And I'll get to the second point that you raise as well, which is about the complexity of the document. That was the reference you're making to the court. I think at its heart, that is about the document being difficult for people to understand. So just on the first point about the elements within the addendum that allow or provide for a builder to cancel an agreement in certain circumstances, I would support looking into that. I would support a review of that. I don't have a specific answer I can give you, although I can say that it is my understanding that the ministry is open to reviewing the addendum and may potentially do a consultation on that document in the near future. And if they do that, I would wholeheartedly support it. I do want to make one point before I go on to the second area, which is that sometimes, though, it's worth asking the question and understanding the history of how something came to be. So in this case, the reason why the document requires builders to put in these terms on how they can cancel is because before the addendum existed, builders were putting those kinds of cancellation terms in their agreements anyway. And they were burying them in their agreements, maybe not all builders, okay, but there were examples of this, where builders would hide or make it hard for the consumer to see the terms that they were inserting into their contract that would allow them to cancel. So it's not that before the addendum this didn't exist. It's that before the addendum you couldn't even find it. And so the idea behind the document was to make it very clear to the consumer if those conditions were present, they would be gathered up and put right in one place. The consumer and the consumer's lawyer could find it easily. And it was about improving disclosure. Now, as things have evolved, consumers have pointed out that it can work hardship on them, which is why I support the idea of reviewing it. In terms of the current document and the complexity of the document, which was referred to in the court case, this was something that we looked at, and the last time this issue was raised, I made the point that we can only do things that are within our control. And we can't amend the addendum because it was created under the Ontario New Home Warranties Plan Act when Tarion was both the regulator and the warranty provider. Now with the passing of new legislation, really the management of the addendum is no longer with our organization. That being said, I did ask my team, isn't there something that we can do? The world is filled with complicated legal documents, and there are often ways to explain them better. And so my team took on that challenge, and we did create plain language explanatory guides that could be helpful to regular homeowners who might have difficulty reading the legal language. And those explanatory guides are available on our website. I know it's not a full answer to your question, but focusing on things that are within our control, it's one small step we've done to try and be more consumer friendly in an area we can. And again, if it is open for review, I would support that initiative.
Thank you. Your question, please.
My name is Nina Deeb. I've been a full-time real estate broker since 1996. When I got into real estate, you were the only delegated authority. There is a director on your board of directors, which is the former Minister of Consumer Services. That's David Sibushi. He added 5 more delegated authorities. I question why the former minister that was charged with your oversight for nearly 3 years is sitting on your board. I asked one of the other delegated authorities whether it would be appropriate for Todd McCarthy to join their board after he's not in government, and they thought that was appropriate. So I do not find it appropriate that the former Minister of Consumer Services is sitting on your board. I think that that's very challenging for consumers, for myself in the sector, because you mentioned history. I do remember history, and I do know who this director is. And there he is sitting on your board. This isn't transparent, and this shouldn't be permitted. Why is the former Minister of Consumer Services sitting on your board?
Thank you.
Well, as a board matter, let me respond to that first. Our board is made up of 12 members. 4 are appointed by the minister, the other 8 being 4 typically from the, up to 4 from the home building industry, and then 4 other directors at large. So our board's nominating committee is involved in the hiring of the 8 directors who are not ministerial appointees. So we go through a process of determining whether their skills fit what we need, their backgrounds, and so on. With respect to the ministerial appointees, those are in the hands of the minister. So we have no influence on that. The minister appoints people that they believe will contribute to our organization, but we, as a board, have no control over who that is. Their terms, otherwise meet what other board members do, the maximum of 3-year terms. So that much is the same for the ministerial appointees as the other board members, but otherwise we're not involved in that part of it. The one thing I would say that while our board is made up of a variety of constituencies, we have the up to 4 members from the home building industry, we have the 4 ministerial appointees and 4 others that are not particularly aligned, if you will. No one is there to represent the constituency that they come from. The ministerial appointees aren't on the board advocating for the interests of the ministry or the Ontario government. The builders that are on our board, they know their job is not to be advocating for the building industry. And if you were a fly on the wall in a meeting watching the proceedings, you wouldn't necessarily know which part of our board makeup that any particular member comes from. But that's all I can say in terms of the directors that are chosen by the minister.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the only thing I would add is ultimately that's probably a question that should be directed to the ministry. Although, just from my own personal perspective, I don't know that being a minister that long ago creates a conflict in my mind. So I'd be happy to talk to you more after the Q&A is over to better understand your position. And I can tell you that Mr. Tsavucci's been a great board member in my experience. So I haven't seen any issues or any conflict being raised. But I do think appreciate hearing the perspective. I think it's important to hear perspectives like this. And I think that it may be something to point out to the ministry. Thank you.
Thank you, Nita. Melanie, do we have any online questions?
Yes, we do. This first one, Tarion documents state when a builder enrolls new units, Tarion will complete a risk assessment based on factors that include, but are not limited to, limited recent history of enrolling homes, significant changes to the principals, officers, directors, or employees, significant changes to the business model, any warranted claims and systemic reported issues, any chargeable conciliations, and when a builder has more than one or more risk factors that merit the risk mitigation outlined in this bulletin, Tarion will analyze the builder's file to create an appropriate inspection plan. Without a doubt, the system as I have lived it is the statutory provisions in Ontario weigh in favor of the builder, well, our builder for certain, as they were and are allowed vast amounts of time and latitude in addressing their incompetence and deflate their accountability factor with the purchaser, all while the homes are built and more purchasers suffer the residue of their changes of employees, lack of communication, changes to the business model, warranty claims, which are systemic and chargeable conditions with HCRA. Now, the question is, how is it that a builder who Tarion is aware of, based on complaints, who meets or exceeds most of these risk factors, is allowed to build houses, enroll them in the Tarion warranty program with over 60 deficiencies, both major and minor, but is allowed to carry on without one visit from Tarion inspectors?
So why don't I take that question? So with regards to what we look at, you are correct, the individual who submitted that question, we do look at a number of different factors when we're looking at the risk of a builder. First of all, I want to mention that they actually do have to have a license. So they have to have a license through HCRA. They have to maintain that license through HCRA, but they come to us when they want approval to build and sell homes. So they'd come to us to say, I'd like to build some homes. We would then look at those risk factors, and we would determine what kind of risk there is to the program. And the individual who asked the question is correct. We would look at what kind of deficiencies are there within the homes that they've previously built. If they don't have a prior history, obviously we can't look at that prior history. But any homes that they've previously built, we would look at what kind of deficiencies there were, whether or not it resulted in an instance when they did not resolve those issues and we had to get involved, and whether or not we actually had to pay out compensation. But we'd actually look at each and every one of those deficiencies that weren't resolved to determine how severe it is. I think people can appreciate that minor issues would result in a different risk factor than considering major risk factors. If there is a builder who has some very serious defects that are not resolved, that we have to get involved with, that we would have to cash compensate to a homeowner, we would take that into consideration. And there are instances when the most severe would be we would not approve them to build any future homes. So they could be correct that there might not be anybody from Tarion to go out and visit them because it's so severe, we're not going to give them permission to build again. But there are varying degrees where we could actually send out individuals. We do risk-based inspections. So we have a group within our underwriting group that would go out and actually do inspections either based on what the defects were from before or a more general site visit. But all of those factors are taken into consideration to determine if we would even allow a builder to continue to build and sell in the province.
Thank you, Kevin. Let's take one more from online before we go to Barbara's second question.
When a defect is denied and the Tarion rep tells the house buyer to dispute it at something called LAT, can the CEO explain what the process is to contest the defect and how long does the buyer have to initiate the process?
Well, the CEO can explain that, but I'm going to ask Sophie to do that.
All right. So if you would like to proceed with a LAT appeal, which is to the License Appeal Tribunal, which is an independent tribunal created by the Ontario government to hear appeals, homeowner appeals from Tarion assessments, the homeowner should request a decision letter. It takes approximately 3 to 4 weeks to draft the decision letter, and then from there the homeowner has 30 days to appeal the decision letter to the License Appeal Tribunal. They have a website. The information would be on our website, and a direct link, I believe, is provided in order for to the License Appeal Tribunal website to get the form to submit to the tribunal. And after that, the scheduling is all done through the tribunal.
All right, great, thank you. Barbara, your second question.
Yes, you say that you're a consumer protection agency, and you mentioned that at least 4 or 5 times in the opening pages of your annual report. But my question is, why are there no consumer advocates on your board of directors? You have 4 builders and no consumer advocates. And the feeling is that the consumer perspective is not properly heard or understood by Tarion.
Thank you.
Yeah, as you said, we are a consumer protection organization. As we go through the process of adding board members when there is a vacancy, whether it's either in the portion of the board that is people with experience in the building industry or the other 4 positions at large. That's part of the interview process to make sure that candidates understand the nature of our organization, our mandate, the consumer protection element of it. I can tell you that everybody on the board understands that we are a consumer protection organization, including those from the building industry. We take advice from consumers, both through the process of dealing with them regularly, the 80,000 contacts that Peter referred to earlier, the surveys that we do, and then we lean heavily on our Consumer Advisory Council of new home buyers, lawyers that work for new home buyers, home inspectors, and the like. So we think altogether we do understand the consumer perspective. We are always open to getting feedback. We do consultations on matters regularly where consumers give us their input on proposed changes to processes or the warranty, and that's how we get the consumer perspective into our organization. Anything you'd like to add, Peter?
No? Okay, thank you. Just so you know, we're at 5 minutes, so Nita, if you want to ask your question, please.
Thank you. Tarion has increased the warranty compensation limit from $300,000 to $400,000. That's an increase of 33%. Thank you. Tarion has also increased their enrollment fees. They have increased those, their ceiling fee has been increased by 343%. So these ceiling fees of 343%, the cost to the consumer is 343%, and the benefit to the consumer, on the other hand, is only 33%. Also, on the changes to the enrollment fees on these increases, it's stated over and over again in your annual report, and I've seen it on your website as well. It says there are no changes to the enrollment fees on homes under $600,000. That is inaccurate. The first 4 lines, there are increases in the first 4 lines in those brackets of new home purchases. That should be corrected. The question I have for you is, why is the benefit to the consumer so small of only 33% when the cost, on the other hand, is 343%? Because that's what the consumer pays.
I don't think that there's been a 343% increase in the enrollment fee, so that's something I'll have to take away and try to understand. Maybe I can speak with you in 5 minutes when we're into the second part, and you can take me through your math.
For the $5 million house where it did go up substantially.
Right, okay.
We used to have a limit where a home up to 1.5 million, they all paid the same amount, and we raised that particular cap so that expensive homes we're paying more of their share, but that's the only part where there was a very large increase.
So I'm not sure if that accurately reflects what you're saying. So we can review that. If it's about the $5 million plus category of home, there was a substantial increase in the enrollment fee relating to that. And I think that's partly based on an analysis that we did that looked at the cost of repairs. So when there is a problem in a home, how much does it cost to repair the home? And the warranty cap was really set for the general average home. If you have a $5 million house and there's a problem in it, we found that there's a correlation between the house price and the cost of the repairs. So that cap could be used up quite quickly. We also apply a progressive approach to our enrollment fee to ensure that lower income and lower houses bear less of a burden of a fee increase. So that's the approach. But again, I'd be happy to talk to you more, and maybe Edmund can help look at the question that you have. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. We are at time. We're going to go into the second half of the Q&A. So if you did get your question asked here, you are invited to stay for the second half, and you could speak to a member of the executive team or a board director or a member of our warranty staff. If you raised a question online and we weren't able to get to it, Tarion will reach out to you directly. So this brings us to the end of the live stream portion of the Tarion's 2024 annual public meeting. And on behalf of Tarion, I would like to thank you for participating this evening. If you're interested in learning more about Tarion's activities, we invite you to go to tarion.com and download the 2023 annual report. We'll now be closing the live stream session and inviting those individuals who are here in person to bring any specific questions forward to the Tarion staff. And you'll see that we have warranty and service underwriting staff at the back. And you'll see they're wearing Tarion name tags. The executive team and the board chair will remain here until 6:30. Tom Barber, our ombudsperson, is also available and will be in the separate breakout room at the side here if you want to meet with him separately. And for those of you online, I'll remind you, you can still email your questions to events@tarion.com and they will be answered. So thank you again for joining us for Tarion's 2024 annual public meeting. Have a good night.
Thank you.